G'day you mob, I'm Pete, this is Pete vs Plants. Welcome to this episode. Today we're going to be potting up a bunch of plants that I recently got from Green My Space in Melbourne. So if you want to watch the video where I am unboxing those first, if you haven't already seen it, I will link it up above. But we're going to put 3 of these plants into LECA and 2 of them have come in soil, so we don't really have to do too much with those. Anyway, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, I'm back. Oh my God. It's been an interesting afternoon. I went and hung out with my folks and my wife, obviously, and my family. We had Thai food for dinner, but my allergies flared up something horrible. So it's one of these weird things. When I was a kid, I never had allergies, never had hay fever, I wasn't allergic to cats. I think the only thing I know of that I was allergic to was pawpaw cream, and I think I found that out once when I was hooking up with someone and I kissed them, right? And I ended up with this horrible rash around my mouth the next day and was like, what the hell? Like we didn't hook up that much, Jesus. But I spoke to my mum, she obviously saw it, and she was like, oh, you know you're allergic to pawpaw cream. And I was like, well, it would have helped if you'd told me. And she's like, oh yeah, that's right. You had the reaction last when you were 3 years old. And I was like, yeah, thanks mum. Anyway, I don't know why, oh yeah, I'm telling you this because yeah, we went to my folks' place and they've got 2 cats. We've always had cats whilst living there. And since moving out of the house when I guess I would have been 18, so this is donkey's years ago now, it's like 17 years ago. After a few years, I developed allergies to cats, just from not being around them anymore, I think. And so every time I go to their place, I have to go straight downstairs to the cabinet, get an antihistamine, take the pill, and then within about 20 minutes, I can start patting the cats and everything's fine. But apparently it wasn't enough today. Because yeah, it's been nuts. Anyway, I've got my little monitor here. I get to spy on my daughter while she sleeps. It's probably the only time that human beings are sort of okay to, you know, socially acceptable to watch other people sleep. So I've got these 5 plants. We're going to pot them up. We'll have a look. Looks like 3 of them are in moss. And the idea I was having with the domesticums was to put them on a moss pole, but I'm not sure. We'll have to have a look at the root system, I guess. You know, it depends how old these are. They look like, I mean, from the outside they look like tip cuttings. I can't see what's underneath yet. This one's obviously a mid cutting that's pretty well established. So I might stake this one up and air layer it. So we'll air layer that one too, because in my mind I'm thinking I want multiple plants on a moss pole for any of these guys really. It's a sort of similar story here where I might air layer this guy. So from memory this was the Tenu and the other one was the ernestii. And then the begonia, which probably needs nothing besides taking the tape off. So maybe we start with this guy and we'll take the tape off. A bit loud. God, it is a lot of tape. Caraca. Sorry, I'm going to keep slipping into Portuguese every now and then because, as you guys probably know if you've seen the other videos, we speak it at home, and so it's kind of weird to be speaking English so much whilst, you know, here in the house. So I often use all these sort of like, not expletives, but like exclamations and everything, like caraca, eita, éguas. I'll say all these things in Portuguese, even if I'm speaking English, because I'm just in the habit of doing it. Ugh. You get some funny looks from people, especially my family. They're always like, huh? Alright. Jesus Christ, guys. Just go bananas, why don't you? With the sticky tape. To cut some of this off, I think, or I'm going to get it caught on the leaves. We're getting there. We're getting there. Alright. This is always that trade-off that we're battling with, right guys? The packaging can be too good sometimes, where you actually endanger the plant by way of making it difficult to take the packaging off the plant. So it may have done well in transit, but just as it's gotten to its destination, it ends up getting damaged because the packaging was too good. Alright, so the begonia is all good here. I'll give it a spray down with some insecticide and keep it aside for probably a week or so, and then you know, let it enter the wild in my lounge when you got no tissues. Okay, let's do the Tenu next. I really should have looked up the pronunciation before starting to talk about the plant that I'd just gotten. guess too, I almost didn't notice, but there's tape on the bottom here that I need to take off as well. I've just noticed it on this one and the begonia, which is good. Prevents the soil from falling out during transit, but if you don't take it off, it's obviously going to keep water in after you've watered it. But yeah, it's going to make a mess. Anyway, that's looking good. It's feeling a little dry, so I might give that a water later on. I might have a look at the soil and see if it needs it. What's in the soil mix here? It looks like a bit of potting soil, some vermiculite, and some fine perlite. Everything? That's everything. All right, out of the way you go for now, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna have to keep taking these breaks to blow my nose. Okay. One thing that is sort of making me wary of this one is just how sort of lanky it is, and it's kind of very delicate at the bottom here. I can feel it moving around every time I pick it up, so I'm sort of being nervous about snapping it off at the base. Okay, let's take this Glad wrap off. If I can find, they've taped it up. It is probably fine, guys, to just wrap things up in saran wrap. I don't think you need to sticky tape around the outside. It kind of clings to itself, right? Hence the name cling wrap. But, yeah, not the end of the world. Okay. So this one's obviously been packaged in moss. I'm wondering, we'll have a look, see what the roots were in prior to it being sent in the mail, because sometimes they take them out of soil and put them into moss to get the weight down. Other times they have been in moss the entire time. All right. And because I don't seem to be able to see any soil here, all I can really see is moss. I might end up putting this into one of my sort of semi-hydro situations and hope it takes off that. Yeah, it's been in LECA, I think that's what the issue is. So I might just put it back into that sort of a setup. Bear with me. Alrighty guys, so I've made the executive decision to chuck these guys in LECA for now. We'll see how they go. If the domesticums do really well, maybe we'll transfer them onto a moss pole in the future, or maybe we'll just take cuttings. We'll see how we go. So anyway, I'm filling up the sink here with some filtered water, and I'm just going to pour the LECA in and let it soak for a bit, give it a rinse. I've got my vases here. These are my $2 vases from Kmart. They're glass, so they're great. Cheaper than buying actual glasses, right, to drink out of. Okay. There's probably enough water, so I'm just gonna I'll try and discuss it without actually doing all that movement. I'm gonna move things around a little bit, and then I'm gonna let the water go out, and I'll fill it up again, probably repeat the process a few times, just to get rid of any of the kind of powdered material that's sort of floating around in here. Remembering this time not to pull the plug all the way out. All right, that's probably enough. So I'm gonna get these ready on the side here. And effectively what I'll do first is just put a little layer of LECA in each of them. Now let's go back to the table and we can have a look at these domesticums and then pop them up. So I'll leave this one out over here. I think this is going to be a similar situation. Yeah, okay, so this one was in perlite. I don't know if you can see the obvious. So if that one was in perlite, I imagine the next one would have been as well. Let's have a look. What's under her skirt? Yep, same deal. Wow, the roots look really good too. Look at that. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Amazing. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of this rubbish. I will put the moss aside because I tend to keep that to reuse. Maybe I'll grab my moss bucket. So let's do I'm having a mind blank. God, you just bought this plant, Pete. How can you not think of the name? Far out. what was it? Ernestii. Jesus, how is it that hard? Okay. Thank you, moss. Okay, same deal here with the other domesticum. See if we can get this moss off gently without damaging any of the aerial roots or the primary roots. Looking beautiful. I might just leave the perlite. It's not really gonna matter one way or the other, guys. So, yeah. All right, we've got all three there. I guess I will grab, will I take you over to the sink? We'll do it over at the sink. All right, so first things first, the ernestii, and I might bury it down a few nodes just to encourage those to hopefully send off the roots and everything too. I'll get rid of some of these sheaths so that they don't just end up rotted material in the LECA. But yeah, oh man, I'm so glad I got this plant. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick. All right, move you out of the way. So, where can I do this? Here is probably best. I guess I'll sort of just rest it like so. That might be the best thing to do, I think. About there. So I filled it right up to the top just because I really do want to cover those nodes as much as possible. I may even put moss around this going up just to encourage even more root growth. So there you have it, guys. There is the Philodendron ernestii. Okay, so now we have number one of the domesticums. And this is obviously tip cutting again. It has a lot of these really long roots, so I might try and make sure that these guys are all sort of going down into the LECA as best as possible, although this one's kind of in the sheath. So I'm not sure if it's going to be able to go or not. It's facing upwards. All right, same deal. Just going to sink him down. And again, if you guys have any tips for how to do this better, you know, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm still very much a novice when it comes to semi-hydro. Might see if I can get this root to kind of cheekily just move down into the LECA ever so slightly. Hopefully that encourages him to grow down into it. All right, so there you go. There is the first domesticum. Now for the last one, and probably the most beautiful of the two. Looking forward to seeing this one size up. I'm going to try and do a similar sort of thing. Just bury it down into the LECA with these adventitious roots going in as well, and hope that it roots well. All right, I might just give this another rinse because there is a bit of debris and sediment here at the bottom still. The other thing I can do is probably just fill this up with water and let the LECA float up a little bit. You come to me. What is it again? If the mountain's not going to go to Muhammad, no. If Muhammad's not going to go to the mountain, bring the mountain to Muhammad. Is that the expression? All right. There we go. Now that one's done. Let's head back over to the table. I think I might pH check my nutrient solution just to make sure that nothing horrible happens to these guys when I add it in there. And I'm not sure what the deal is, but it's kind of gone cloudy. So I don't even know. Maybe I should make a new batch. Yeah. There's no harm in doing that. We'll just make a new batch, guys. I don't trust myself. Okay, so I've got my PhD. I've got my pH lower, or pH down, is what I guess I was thinking, because it's PhD. pH down here. And I have some all-in-one hydroponic solution from Bunnings here as well, which we're going to use. This is going to be the first time I use this. And on the back here it says hydroponic seedlings, hydroponic established plants, 1 ml per litre. So I might do even half that. Established plants growing in soil, growing media 4 to 5, bonsai alpines, orchids 1, foliar, all right, maybe hydroponic established plants. Plants growing in soil or growing media. I guess it's hydroponic, so we'll just do 1 ml. So I'm going to pH test the water. I'm just going to repeat this process. I've done it a few times in the past, but let's just see what it's sitting at currently. So we need about 10 ml of water in this tube. There you go, 10 ml. And we give it 2 drops of this solution. So 1, 2. Let me double check that. I think that's the deal. 2 drops, yep. Okay. And then we have this chart here that we can chuck the lid back onto this thing, this tube, shake it up, shake and bake, and then we can compare it on the chart to see where it falls. So at the moment, for me, I feel like this is probably a 7. You probably can't see too well, but it looks like it's either a 7 or a 7.5. It's sort of in that range. So we need to bring it down, I think at least 1.5 points. So between 5.5 and 6.5 is where it is, right? So yeah, 1.5 points. What we need to do first though, from what I understand again, so I might fill this one up, is make your solution first and add the nutrients, because adding the nutrients, this may have a different pH from the water, and so if you add this after you've already pH balanced it, you may throw it off and raise it or lower it. So I guess we'll just do 1 ml as it suggests. Maybe what I should do first is give it a shake. Shake well. Shake and bake. And then I will take 1 ml out. Boom. Okay. There we go. So that is 1 ml. Put that in. And it's 1 ml per litre, isn't it? So I should have actually done 2. What am I smoking? It's a 2 litre bottle, so I need another ml. In you go. Okay, so all right, I'm going to close this, give it a shake to mix it up a bit, mix things up, and then I am going to rinse out the pH little tube here, and then I guess I can just measure out 10 ml here, all the way to 5. Actually, probably should empty that and then do it again, because it may have residual nutrients in it. So there's 5, and there's another 5. We will do 2 drops. Burp, burp. Don't know why I made that sound effect. Okay. And it is, as I suspected, lower. Can you see that color change? Wow, okay, so it's actually dropped quite a bit. So now it looks like it's sitting potentially around 5, 5.5, 6. It's so annoying, these charts. I really don't know how you're meant to kind of judge this. To you guys, it probably looks black. It's actually green. And if I hold it in front of this white thing, maybe if I hold it in front of the... Hard to do. But yeah, looking at it, maybe if I do this, take the top off, sit it here. Oh man, yeah. It's like, what the hell is that? It's green, but how green? Like, I mean, you could make an argument that it's 4.5, that it's 5, that it's 5.5, that it's 6, 6.5. I reckon it's probably closer to 6. So I reckon for this, I might just leave it as it is. I won't use any pH lower. And we'll just have to keep an eye on the plants. If you see any kind of signs of what would be nutrient burn or nutrient deficiency, that's when you would obviously take them out of the solution, give them a flush, and try something else with a higher pH or a lower pH. I'm actually going to buy a meter that's a little more accurate and will give me a digital readout so that I can be sure, instead of just eyeballing it with something like this. All right, so we've got our solution here. Let's go back over to the table and fill these puppies up. I left my coffee here, so that's going to get cold. Okay, so I have to try and be wary of the fact, and actually, I've noticed something that looks like a bit of a fail. These gaps here with those roots. I'm not sure if that is a good thing or not. It's probably not the end of the world. You guys will have to let me know in the comments, but it does make me a little nervous. Maybe, I'll get a chopstick out, maybe that'll help. Let's see if this does the trick without damaging anything. Yeah, that should do just fine. Get in there.
Don't wait.
This one now needs a bit of a top up. All right. So there's not really much more to it, guys. All right. So I might just readjust this one's root here. Make sure that it's kind of buried a little bit. Get down there, mate. Down you go. Guess you'll need a top up as well.
You'll always be the one I wanna meet.
Yeah, so what was I going to say? So we're going to fill it up. I just have to be mindful of where the root ball is because I did kind of situate it in a low position for each of these. I probably will only go up about maybe a third to halfway. And yeah, I guess we'll just keep an eye on the plants and see how they go. So tippity tip. In you go, buddy. Drink, drink, drink. Maybe we'll just go to halfway. There we go. Same for you guys. Same for you, mate. About halfway. All right. And last but not least, the ernestii. Sorry for forgetting your name, mate. So rude of me. Okay, so we're in my bathroom. I've got the heat lamp on with the fan going. I forgot to show you guys, but I have actually just sprayed these guys down with some neem oil. This is the product in question, Eco Oil. So again, I get this from Bunnings. I think it was about $13, I think, for a bottle. And you can get the refill, which, you know, should be able to refill dozens of these things for, again, about 20 bucks. So I sort of use the bathroom here as where I isolate things. I'm just gonna leave them out for an hour or two now under the heat lamp to sort of dry the oil off so they're not sitting in that all night. And then I may move them into my office to just keep them away from the kids for obvious reasons as well, for their safety and for the plant's safety. Okay, well, that's probably all she wrote, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. I'm gonna chuck them on a heat mat and we'll see how they go. I'll give you some updates in the future. YouTube reckons you're gonna enjoy this video over here, so pop on over and I'll see you there. Tooroo.